that means. I'm not sure what that means, but maybe some things that are a little bit more aggravating to me today than they've been in the past, and I'll talk about those. Of course, economic things, financial things, and all things politics that have to do with the economy and the so-called fiscal cliff, the dysfunction in Washington in and around all of that discussion. Speaking of Washington, I also have a special guest coming on in the second segment. So I'm going to give you some recap on some of the economic news that came out this morning. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I've got to talk about in more detail today. Hopefully we'll get to. So I'm going to do that. And then we're going to have a guest in the next segment, Catherine Cryer. Do you remember her, Catherine Cryer? You should all know Catherine Cryer. I think she started out her TV career on CNN, went to Fox News for a number of years. Or actually, maybe she came out of ABC News. You know her. She's a very good writer. She has written a book called Patriot Acts. Great book, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to get a little bit of political viewpoints from her. Then I'm just going to ask some questions of her about the fiscal cliff and where she stands. She's a great political analyst, comes at things from a true, I'm going to say, real founding fathers, a true, a little bit, well, I'll surprise you, but a true conservative spirit going back to what our founding fathers believed. Great book. It's called Patriot Acts, and we're going to talk to her in the second segment. Anyway, job numbers came out. Not much to report there. They are down. Guess that's good news, right? They're down. There's some good news, some things that would be perceived as good news. Job numbers down 29,000. 343,000 people filed for first-time unemployment claims. Last week, that is the number. The claims are now below the pre-Sandy levels. So I guess we can say that if there are any Sandy effect on these numbers, it is gone. So that is the situation right now. I heard some talk this morning, read coming out of European news, which is kind of irritating that was the first place I heard it. But these are things that I've talked about for a number of years, is I think what we are going to begin to see in this second term of this administration in the economy is a new normal. And the new normal now, I heard this morning, the new normal is being talked about full employment being 6.5%. Of course, they've got to change the normal. They've got to be able to talk about those that are trying to justify the stagnant, lousy economy that we have, to 6.5% being the new normal unemployment. I'll talk about a little bit more about that later. Retail sales numbers came out. By the way, our futures are pretty much flat. Not a lot going on. The European market went negative as a result of some of the numbers that came out this morning, but primarily due to the fact that Ben came out yesterday, and Bernanke said that I'm going to talk about that. I've got a clip that I'm going to play of that, of what he said. But one thing that is not contained in the clip is the fact that he is going to pick up the bond buying, as mainstream media calls it. It's not bond buying. It's allowing us to get further in debt. It is debt buying. Let's make no mistake about it. That's what bonds are. Bonds are debt issues, remember? It is when someone makes an agreement to purchase or to allow a corporation or a government to get into debt, lending the government money. That's what it means. It means you're lending the government money, or in our case, allowing the government to monetize a few more dollars. In this case, we're now up to $85 billion per $85 billion per month through 2000 and I think he said 16, increasing what he originally said of 40 billion to 85 billion, adding another 45 billion, more than doubling what they originally had planned to do every month. That is buying debt. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing for the government. It's a beautiful thing to allow the printing presses to keep on running. Remember what I said. I just said this again yesterday. I've been saying it for a long time. It will maintain the fact that the government can continue to put money into the monetary system to print debt because, remember, we have no choice, folks. We are short about $1.2 trillion in the income that we're taking in. We will continue to print money. 2 years ago, I said there will be quantitative easing, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on and so forth, and we have reached QE forever, and that's what we have, and that cannot change.